My name is Mark Jensen. I'm 26, and for about a year and a half now, I've been driving for a rideshare app on nights and weekends in Cedar Creek. It's not exactly a career, but it helps keep my head above water with rent and some old student loan payments. This all started about a month ago. My routine is pretty set in stone. I usually log on around 9 p.m., sometimes earlier on a Friday, and drive until 2 or 3 in the morning. Cedar Creek isn't a huge city, but it's got enough late-night bars and a university campus to keep me busy. I'd clean out my 5-year-old Honda Civic, check the gas, and then just wait for the pings to come in. Most of my passengers are pretty typical. Tipsy college kids, service industry folks heading home, or the occasional airport run. The app pinged saying Michael S. for a 3-minute drive. The pickup was at Main Street and Elm, right by the old Tally-Ho Diner. A pretty common spot. I pulled up to the curb, headlights on, hazard lights flashing, just like I always do. I was slowing to a stop when, before I could even unlock the doors, the app blinked ride canceled. There was nobody there. I just shrugged. People do weird stuff sometimes, or maybe they found another ride or even hit the wrong button. I figured it was just a glitch in the app, or someone changed their mind last second. But then it started happening more often. 2 nights later, almost the exact same time, I got another ping for Main and Elm. This time it was Ashley R. I pulled up and again, nobody. The ride canceled as I arrived. It started happening almost every other night after that. Different names, always from new accounts, never the same name twice, but always that same intersection. Or maybe a block or 2 down, but close enough to feel deliberate. It was getting annoying, mostly because it meant I'd driven somewhere for nothing. But the app usually gave me a small cancellation fee, so it wasn't a complete loss. I thought it was just bad luck, a weird string of coincidences, or maybe some prankster who kept making fake accounts. Then, about a week and a half ago, it finally happened. It was late, around 1 in the morning, and the app pinged again. Sarah P. for Main and Elm. I pulled up, and this time there was a woman standing there. She was average height, wearing a dark hoodie, and her face was mostly obscured by the shadows and the hood. She got in the back seat without a word. The destination was an apartment complex across town, about a 15-minute drive. She was silent the whole way, not a peep. I tried making small talk, like I usually do. Long night? Or heading home? Nothing. Not even a grunt. I just figured she was tired, or maybe just not a talker. I pulled up to the complex, and she didn't move for a second. The silence felt heavy. Then she leaned forward just a little, and her voice was a low whisper. "Thanks for the ride, Mark Jensen. See you on Willow Creek." Then she was out of the car and gone before I could even reply. My heart just stopped. Willow Creek. That's my street. Not the street I just dropped her off on. Not the street she'd been picked up on. My street. My full name. I sat there for a good 2 minutes, staring at the empty spot where she'd been, trying to process what had just happened. The next night I logged on again, trying to shake it off. I told myself it was just a crazy coincidence, that maybe she'd somehow seen my driver's license or something. But then my phone pinged, and the pickup location was Willow Creek Apartments, my own complex. I declined it. Another one popped up a few minutes later, 2407 Willow Creek, which is literally my building number. I declined that one too, my hands shaking. I logged off for the night. 2 days later, I found a phone on my back seat after a long shift. It wasn't mine, and none of my previous passengers had called to report a lost one. It was just a cheap, basic smartphone, screen dark. I tried to turn it on, but it was dead. I charged it up, and when it finally came to life, I saw the wallpaper. It was a zoomed-in photo of my house, taken from the street. My front door, my little window box with the dead marigolds, all of it. A couple of nights ago, I was driving home after grabbing some groceries. Maybe 9 p.m. Not working, just driving my regular route. As I passed the corner of Main and Elm, the one where all this started, I saw someone standing there. Same dark hoodie, same general build as the woman from the ride. Just standing there, staring at the empty corner, as if waiting for me, even though I wasn't logged in. I hit the gas, heart pounding. I called rideshare support the next day. They were polite, but useless. I told them about the strange cancellations, then the ride where the woman knew my address, then the pickup requests from my street. They said they could block those specific accounts, but that was it. They couldn't share rider information due to privacy concerns. I should have called the police right then, told them everything, but I didn't. I still had this dumb idea that it was all just a series of really creepy coincidences tied to the app. I was wrong. And that was 3 days ago. I haven't driven since. But every night around 10:30 or 11, my front porch light flickers. Just once. Then it's dark again. My house isn't even on a smart switch. My name is Chloe. I'm 21, and I've been working the overnight shift at the old Golden Sands Motel out on Route 55 for about a year and a half now. It's not exactly a glamorous career, mostly just me, a vending machine full of stale chips and my college textbooks, but it pays the rent on my tiny apartment. This all started about a month ago. The Golden Sands is one of those places that used to be a big deal back in the 70s, but now it mostly caters to truckers and the occasional family passing through on their way to the coast. My shift runs from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. On a typical night, I'd check in maybe 2 or 3 late arrivals, sometimes none at all. The front desk is a small glassed-in booth right off the main lobby, and it's always quiet after 1 a.m. I usually just read for my intro to psych class, listen to some podcasts, or try to get ahead on my essays. The motel has 2 floors, maybe 60 rooms total, laid out in a U shape around a sad-looking pool. Room 211 is on the 2nd floor, right over the main entrance, tucked away in a corner. I knew the layout like the back of my hand. One Tuesday night, probably around 3:30 a.m., I was doing my routine system check, just making sure all the room statuses were accurate before the morning shift came in. I clicked through the screen, and that's when I saw it. Room 211, which I knew for a fact had been empty all night, was showing as occupied in the system. I hadn't checked anyone into 211. Nobody had even come to the desk asking for a room since midnight. I figured it was just the system glitching out. The old motel management software is pretty ancient, prone to freezing and weird error messages. I just clicked the vacant button and moved on. Didn't even really think about it. People do weird stuff sometimes, or computers do, but then it happened again. 2 nights later, same thing around the same time, maybe 3:15 a.m. Room 211 showing occupied. And then again the next week. Always after 2 a.m., I started keeping a mental note. It was never checked in by me or by Sarah, who worked the evening shift. It was just occupied. I even started checking the key card logs for that room, but there was never an entry. Just a phantom guest. It was kind of an amusing mystery at first. I'd actually started looking forward to seeing if Mr. Ghostly or whatever was going to pop up in 211 that night. I even made a small post-it note on my monitor. 211 watch? I told myself it was just a faulty sensor or a software bug. Nothing to worry about. Then came last Thursday. It was a slow night, maybe 3 a.m. I was slumped in my chair, sipping a lukewarm coffee from the lobby machine, reading a true crime novel. The Stranger Beside Me by Anne Rule. The desk phone rang, startling me. It was the internal line, ringing from one of the rooms. The display showed room 211. My blood went cold. I picked it up, my voice barely a whisper. Golden Sands. Chloe speaking. There was a pause, a sort of rustling sound, and then a low, steady voice. A man's voice. Not particularly threatening, but utterly chilling. Still got your hair tied back in that messy bun, Chloe, huh? And the stranger beside me? Good choice for a late shift. I dropped the phone. It clattered against the counter, still connected. The faint sound of static on the line. I didn't even know what to do. How could anyone in that room know what I was wearing, let alone what book I was reading? The front desk is glassed in, but the lobby is empty at that hour. No one could have seen me. I just stared at the phone, my heart pounding until the line went dead. I should have called the police right then, but I didn't even think of that. My mind was just a jumble of panic. The next night, I was a wreck. I called in sick, but my manager, Mr. Henderson, insisted I come in because Sarah had the flu. I walked into the lobby feeling like I was stepping into a trap. I went straight to the key card system, pulling up the log for room 211. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely type. And there it was, an entry. Room 211, accessed by card, CLH FD001. Time 03:07 a.m. 11:14. CLH FD001 was my master key card, the one I kept on a lanyard around my neck, the one I used to open rooms when guests locked themselves out or for housekeeping access. It had been used to open 211 just hours before that phone call, but I hadn't touched it all night, let alone gone up to that room. I didn't tell Mr. Henderson anything. I just kept my mouth shut, terrified. 2 nights later, I was back on shift. I spent the entire night glued to the security monitors, especially the one pointing down the second floor hallway where 211 was. Around 3:45 a.m., I had to use the bathroom, which is just down a short hall from the front desk. I was gone maybe 2 minutes. When I came back, there was something on the counter, right in front of my keyboard. It was my spare uniform shirt, the one I kept folded in my locker in the back room, perfectly folded and laid out, and on top of it a small handwritten note, scrawled on a piece of Golden Sands stationery. You missed a spot cleaning the lobby floor. Don't worry, I fixed it. The lobby floor was spotless. I hadn't even cleaned it that night. My locker had been locked. I finally, hesitantly, told Mr. Henderson about the occupied room glitch and the key card log entry the next morning. I left out the phone call and the note, too embarrassed and too scared to explain it all. He just grunted, looked annoyed, and told me the system was old and probably acting up. He said he'd take a look at room 211 later, but he clearly thought I was making a fuss over nothing. He blamed the software, shrugged it off as a common issue with older motels. I asked if he checked the room, and he said, yeah, it was empty, just like I told you. He never even glanced at the key card logs. And that was 3 days ago. Room 211 hasn't shown up as occupied in the system since then. I still work the overnight shift. I don't read my books anymore. I just sit and stare at the security monitors, especially the hallway for the second floor, feeling like every shadow is watching me. I've started bringing my dad's old hunting knife with me to work, just in case. It's sitting under the counter right now. Sometimes, when the lobby is dead silent, I swear I can hear a faint clicking sound, like a key card slot being swiped, coming from somewhere upstairs. My name is Sarah. I'm a single mom, and for the last year and a half, I've been making ends meet by doing grocery deliveries for an app called QuickCart. It's not glamorous, and it certainly doesn't make me rich, but it lets me be there for Lily, my daughter, when she needs me. I drop her off at Meadowbrook Elementary by 8:15. Then I'm on the road for QuickCart until about 2:30, picking up a few orders. That gives me enough time to swing by the school for dismissal at 3. After that, maybe one more quick delivery if it's close to our apartment, and then it's dinner, homework, and getting ready for the next day. My delivery zone covers mostly the north side of town, which is a mix of older neighborhoods and some newer developments. And I know the aisles of every Kroger, Publix, and even the fancy organic market like the back of my hand. I pride myself on getting fresh produce and making sure everything's bagged just right. It was for a house on Elmwood Drive, a pretty standard order. Milk, bread, some frozen pizzas, a few cleaning supplies. Nothing unusual. I shopped it, delivered it, and didn't think twice. Later that evening, after Lily was asleep, I was checking my earnings and saw that the customer from Elmwood Drive had given me a $20 cash tip on top of the in-app $5, which, for that size of an order, was incredibly generous. Most people just do the standard 5%. I made a mental note of the address, 142 Elmwood, figuring they were just a really nice customer. I didn't think much of it beyond that. I mean, good tippers exist, right? Some folks just have more money to throw around, or maybe they just really appreciated getting their groceries without having to haul a kid to the store. I definitely wouldn't complain about it. It was a nice boost to my daily earnings, and I figured maybe I'd get lucky and pick up their order again sometime, and I did. About a week later, another order popped up for 142 Elmwood. Same kind of items, same efficient delivery. And sure enough, another $20 cash tip. This time, when I saw the order come in, it had a note. Please send Sarah if available. The QuickCart app has a feature where customers can request specific shoppers if they've had a good experience, but it rarely actually works out with my schedule. Yet, for 142 Elmwood, it seemed to. Over the next few weeks, it became almost routine. I was getting an order from 142 Elmwood too, sometimes 3, even 4 times a week, always during my morning window between 9 and 2. Always a standard grocery list, always a request for me, always that $20 cash tip, sometimes even a $25. I started to rely on it. It was easy money and almost guaranteed $40 or $50 a week just from that one house. I even started to joke to my friend Maria about my mystery millionaire who just loved my shopping skills. I had never actually seen the customer though. They always left a note to just leave the groceries on the porch, and by the time I rang the doorbell and turned to leave, the door was already closed. Then about 3 weeks ago, I got the usual order request from Elmwood. I accepted it, went to Kroger, grabbed everything on the list, and headed over. When I pulled up to the house, I checked the delivery notes just to make sure there wasn't anything new, and there was. Underneath the usual "please leave on porch," it said clear as day. Sarah, I know Meadowbrook Elementary traffic is a nightmare right now. take the back road past the old mill. You'll avoid the rush. My heart just about stopped. Meadowbrook Elementary. That's Lily's school? How in the hell would they know that? I stood there on the porch, groceries in my arms, staring at the screen. I didn't even remember ever mentioning where my daughter went to school. I didn't talk about my personal life with customers. I just didn't. I dropped the bags, knocked, and practically ran back to my car, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. I should have called the police right then, but I didn't even think of that. I was too stunned, too focused on Lily. I just wanted to get to her. I picked her up that day, feeling a cold knot in my stomach the whole time. The next morning, I woke up to a box of groceries on my own porch. Not a quick cart delivery, just a plain cardboard box. Inside were some of Lily's favorite snacks: organic fruit pouches, dinosaur-shaped chicken nuggets, and a specific brand of gluten-free cookies I always bought for her because of a mild sensitivity. Things I hadn't ordered, things that weren't even on my quick cart usual list. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped the box. Later that day, I was scrolling through my past deliveries on the quick cart app, just trying to make sense of things. And I saw a new message on the chat for that last Elmwood order. It wasn't about the groceries. It was a picture. A clear close-up photo of my car, parked in my driveway, with my license plate visible. The message underneath just said, "Looking good, Sarah. I didn't deliver to Elmwood anymore." I tried to block the address in the app, but QuickCart's system isn't really set up for that. So I just started declining any order that popped up from there. But the photo, that was too much. I drove over to 142 Elmwood Drive that afternoon, my stomach churning. I had to see who was doing this. The house looked normal from the outside, a well-kept ranch. But when I walked up to the front door, it was a rental lockbox on the handle, one of those digital ones real estate agents use. I peered through the windows. Empty. Completely empty. No furniture, no food in the kitchen, just bare floors and dusty blinds. Someone was ordering groceries to an empty house. I called the police after that. I told them everything. The weird notes, the specific requests, the delivery to my home, the photo, the empty house. The officer I spoke to was polite, but pretty dismissive. He said that while it was certainly unsettling, leaving groceries on my porch wasn't a crime, and a photo of my car in a public place wasn't either. He said they couldn't do anything unless an actual crime had been committed, like trespassing or property damage. He suggested I block the number if it was a phone number, which it wasn't. He said he'd make a note of it, but I could tell he thought I was overreacting. I even called Quick Cart support, and they just said they'd investigate. But they couldn't share customer information, and they definitely couldn't tell me who was sending me messages through the app, and that was 3 days ago. Yesterday, when I went to pick Lily up from school, there was a small, hand-drawn picture tucked under my windshield wiper. It was a crayon drawing of a house with a little stick figure waving from the porch, and next to it, another stick figure standing next to a car. And on the back, written in shaky, childlike letters, it just said, "Hi Sarah, see you soon." I still haven't gotten another order from Elmwood, but I keep checking my porch, and I keep checking the Quick Cart app. I haven't slept through the night since that first note. I look over my shoulder constantly. Every car that slows down on our street makes my heart pound. I don't know what they want. I don't know who they even are. But I know they're still out there, and they're watching. My name is Gerald Peterson, but everyone calls me Jerry. I'm 63, and I've been working the late shift at Storage Solutions, out on the edge of town for about 2 years now. It's not exactly a thrilling career, especially after a lifetime in accounting, but it keeps me busy and out of my wife's hair a few nights a week. Plus, the quiet is good for my podcasts. This whole thing, it really started to get strange a couple of months ago in late October. My routine is pretty set in stone. I get in at 10 p.m., lock up the main office at 11, and then it's just me and the rows of metal boxes until 6 a.m. I do my rounds, walking the gravel paths between the 3 big buildings, A, B, and C, shining my heavy-duty Brinkmann flashlight into every nook and cranny. I check the gates, make sure no one's trying to sleep in their U-Haul, and mostly just enjoy the solitude. Building A runs along the back fence, a long, low structure with maybe 200 units. One Tuesday night, it must have been around 3:15 a.m., I was doing my second patrol of the night. As I walked down the aisle of Building A, my flashlight beam hit Unit 114, and I saw it. The roll-up door was slightly ajar, maybe 3 or 4 inches from the concrete. Just a sliver of darkness visible inside. I couldn't see anything specific, just the void. I walked up to it, pulled the door down with both hands, and it clicked shut. I gave the master lock padlock a firm tug, and it was secure. I figured it was just a faulty latch, or maybe someone had pulled it up a bit during the day and hadn't realized it didn't fully close. Happens sometimes. Or maybe the wind. It can do funny things out here near the industrial park. But then it happened again. That same week, on my Thursday night shift. Again, around 3:20 a.m., Unit 114. Same few inches open. I closed it, checked the lock, again. The next week. And the week after that. Always Unit 114, always between 3 and 4 in the morning. Sometimes I'd find it open, sometimes it would be closed by the time I made my next round. I started checking the camera feeds in the office more closely. We have cameras at the main gate at the office and covering the main entrances to the buildings, but none of them point directly at the individual unit doors. And even when I reviewed the footage for Building A during those hours, nothing. No cars coming or going, no figures lurking. It was like the door just decided to lift itself. I started to find it a bit odd, but still, I wasn't scared. Just a weird quirk. I even started to joke to myself, guess someone really wants to air out their old junk. Then, one particularly slow Saturday night, I got curious. I decided to actually look up the renter for Unit 114. I went into the main office, opened up the computer system, and typed in 114. The information popped up. Renter name, Eleanor Vance. And then I saw the address. My jaw went slack. That was it. My address. The house I grew up in, the one my parents sold back in 1983. It was right there, typed out in black and white. 14 Elm Street, Maplewood, Ohio. My hands started to shake. How could that be? It had to be a mistake. A database error. But it was too specific. The next Tuesday night, after seeing that address, I found Unit 114 open again. This time, I didn't just close it. My heart was pounding. But I took out my master key, unlocked the master lock, and rolled the door all the way up. The unit was mostly empty, just some dust and a few cobwebs. But right there in the middle of the concrete floor was a single gray metal folding chair. It was positioned perfectly, facing the door, like someone had just been sitting there, watching the empty aisle. I didn't touch it. I just rolled the door back down, locked it, and walked away, my mind racing. 3 nights later on my Thursday shift, I was still rattled. When I got to Unit 114, I saw it had a brand new padlock on it. Not the old rusty master lock. This was a shiny, heavy-duty Brinks padlock. My stomach dropped. I tried my master key just to see, and to my horror, it slid in smoothly and turned. It opened right up. I peered inside. The chair was gone. I quickly locked it back up, my hands trembling so badly I almost dropped the key. That Saturday night, it was especially quiet. No wind, no distant highway noise. Around 3:30 a.m., I was walking my usual path between building B and C, the gravel crunching under my boots, and then I heard it. Distinct, soft, crunching footsteps behind me on the gravel. I stopped. The footsteps stopped. I took another step. They took another step. I froze. Silence. I slowly turned, shining my powerful flashlight down the path. Nothing. Just the empty space between the units. I didn't see a soul, but the feeling of being watched, of someone mirroring my movements, was undeniable. I kept walking, my heart hammering against my ribs, constantly glancing over my shoulder, but I never saw anyone. I should have called the police the second I saw that address, or maybe even after I saw the chair. But I didn't. I kept trying to tell myself it was a mistake, a prank, that my mind was playing tricks. Eventually, I called my manager, Dave. I explained everything: the door, the address, the chair, the new lock, even the footsteps. Dave sounded annoyed. He said it was probably kids or a disgruntled former renter, and told me to just keep an eye out. "We can't just break into a unit based on a hunch, Jerry," he said. "And the address? Could be a coincidence or an old data entry error from decades ago." He promised to check the renter's file himself, but nothing came of it. I never heard back from him about it. That was 2 nights ago. My next shift is tomorrow night, Tuesday. Sometimes, when I'm home and the house is quiet, I swear I can hear a faint scraping sound, like metal on concrete, coming from somewhere far away. And I wonder if someone is just sitting there, waiting for me to punch in. My name is Jamie. I'm 31, and I work from home as a technical writer for a software company based out of Seattle. It's not exactly glamorous, staring at a screen all day in my 3rd-floor apartment, but it pays the bills and means I don't have to deal with traffic. I've been doing it for about 4 years now. This all started about 2 months ago. I'd had a package stolen right off my doorstep a few weeks prior, a new set of noise-canceling headphones, and it really irritated me. So I bought one of those cheap wireless doorbell cameras, a Wise Cam off Amazon. Figured it was better than nothing. It was easy enough to set up. Just stuck it to the door frame with the included adhesive strip, paired it with my phone, and downloaded the app. It records motion, sends alerts, has 2-way audio, the usual stuff. My apartment is pretty standard, a long, quiet hallway with 4 doors on each side. I'm at the very end, so it's usually pretty private up here. About a week after I installed it, I started getting these weird motion alerts on my phone. They always seem to happen in the middle of the night, usually around 3:15 a.m. I'd be sound asleep and my phone would buzz with a notification. Motion detected at front door. I'd squint at it, then open the app, and it would just be a 10-second clip of an empty hallway. Beige walls, my plain beige door, the dim overhead light from the building. Nothing there at all. I just shrugged it off, honestly. I figured it was a cheap camera, maybe a bug in the software, or perhaps an old building settling, making some kind of vibration that triggered it. Sometimes the hallway lights flicker a bit, so I figured maybe that was it. People do weird stuff sometimes, and electronics have their quirks. I just deleted the alerts and went back to sleep. But then it kept happening. Night after night, always between 3 a.m. and 3:30 a.m. I started calling it my ghost draft alert. It was annoying for sure, interrupting my sleep, but I wasn't scared. It was always just an empty hallway. I'd wake up, check the clip, roll my eyes, and go back to bed. Sometimes I'd get 2 or 3 in a night, all showing nothing. It was consistent though. Always that specific time frame. Always empty. Then, about a week and a half ago, it changed. My phone buzzed at 3:18 a.m., just like always. I groaned, expecting to see the usual empty hallway. But this time it wasn't empty. There was someone there, standing directly in front of my door, facing it. They were tall, wearing a dark hoodie, so I couldn't make out any features. But they were definitely a person. They weren't moving, just standing there, completely still. The clip ended after 10 seconds, and they were still there, unmoving. The worst part? That was a Tuesday night, and I was up late working on a project, watching a movie with headphones on. I hadn't heard a thing, not a sound. No footsteps, no creak of the floorboards. Nothing that would tell me someone had been standing right outside my door for God knows how long. A couple of nights later, I opened the Wise app to check if there were any new alerts, and I noticed something new. Under the Devices tab, there wasn't just front door camera. There was a second device listed. It said living room cam. I don't own a living room cam. I've never bought one. I tried to delete it, but the option wasn't there. It was just listed alongside my legitimate doorbell camera. The next morning, I went to leave for groceries and noticed my peephole was covered. From the outside, someone had neatly taped over it with black electrical tape. I ripped it off, my hands shaking. That was when the real fear started to set in. It wasn't just a weird camera glitch anymore. This was real. A few days after that, Mrs. Henderson from across the hall stopped me as I was getting my mail. She's a sweet old lady, always up early. She mentioned seeing someone in the hallway around 3 a.m. "Just standing there, dear, looking at your door," she said with a shrug. She assumed it was me or a friend, but I know for a fact I was fast asleep at that time. I finally called the non-emergency line of the police department. I explained everything. The empty alerts, the clip of the person, the living room cam showing up, the taped over peephole. What Mrs. Henderson said, they took a report, but the officer on the phone said there wasn't much they could do without clear evidence of a crime. "It's just someone standing in a public hallway, ma'am," he said. "And the camera showing up on your app? That could be a software error. I should have called them right after that first video, but I didn't even think of that. I also told my landlord, Mr. Davies. He just seemed annoyed and said he'd keep an eye out, which I know means he won't do anything. And that was 3 days ago. Now every night I leave my bedroom door open, just a crack, and I listen, because the alerts still come, sometimes for my front door, sometimes for the other one. And I wonder, when the app says living room cam is active, what exactly it's seeing.